You know how we've been telling you about how the billionaire Koch brothers who are financing Governor Walker and his attack on the middle class? Well, Ian Murphy, the editor of the alternative online magazine Buffalo Beast, prank called Governor Walker in Wisconsin, pretending to be one of the brothers, David Koch. And are you ready for this? Walker bought it. He took the call and chatted with the fake Koch brother for 20 minutes. The guy, he says he's not going to talk to anybody. He's like, oh, the Kochs are calling? Oh, that's my boss. I got to pick it up. 20 minutes. His office confirmed it. I couldn't believe it. It's an amazing look into Walker's thinking. We hear Walker, in his own words, giving details of how he plans to cripple public employees in his state. Now, we're going to give you a whole breakdown of the tape in 1 second. And wait till we get to the part about baseball bats and parties in California. But first on the call, Governor Walker wasted no time threatening worker layoffs.
I've got layoff notices ready. We put out the at-risk notices. We'll announce Thursday. They'll go out early next week, and we'll probably get 5,000 to 6,000 state workers will get at-risk notices for layoffs. We might ratchet that up a little bit, too.
Yeah, ready with the layoffs, 5,000 to 6,000. Going to ratchet it up. But that's not fair. You said this was about the budget. Now, they say, yes, we'll give you all the pay cuts you want. And you say, don't worry, Mr. Koch. I'll fire him if you want me to. Then Walker made it clear that he has no intention of compromising with the Democrats.
We don't budge. If you're doing the right thing, you stay firm. And in this case, we say we'll wait it out. If they want to start sacrificing thousands of public workers who'll be laid off, sooner or later, there's going to be pressure on these senators to come back. We're not.
Beautiful. So, of course, he says right there, we're not going to budge. We're never going to budge. We're going to make sure they budge. Next, the governor told the fake Koch about a plan to get the Democrats back to Wisconsin by saying he'll talk to them. But it turns out it's all a trick. Watch.
I would be willing to sit down and talk to him, the Assembly Democrat leader, plus the other two Republican leaders. Talk, not negotiate, and listen to what they have to say. If they will, in turn, but I'll only do it if all 14 of them come back and sit down in the state assembly.
He says, look, I'm not going to negotiate with them. I'm just going to talk. I'll have them come in and yell at me for an hour. But in reality, once they're in the state, he's got a plan that he's ready to unleash that says, oh, once you've agreed to it, I don't care if you recess or you don't recess. The minute you step in and you take that first action, well, we've got quorum and we can go ahead with our plan. It's the whole thing. It's to trick the Democrats into coming back. He's telling them one thing, but he's telling the Koch brothers, don't worry. I'm going to do something completely different. Now, the Democrats can't fall for that, can they? All right, look, he doubled down on his refusal to negotiate, and the fake Koch used the opportunity to give the governor tips on how to deal with the Democrats. Wait till you get a load of this.
My sense is, hell, I'll talk. If they want to yell at me for an hour, I'm used to that. I can deal with that, but I'm not negotiating.
Bring a baseball bat. That's what I do.
I have one in my office. You'll be happy with that. I got a slugger with my name on it.
Beautiful.
These guys, Al Capone walking around with a baseball bat talking about how they're going to take care of these guys. I mean, look, it's the fake Koch brother, and he's feeding him, and he's seeing if he's going to take the bait. And Walker steps up and goes, oh, yeah, grab the bat. Let's go. Where are we going? Then toward the end of the conversation, Walker started talking about how he was setting the example for other states and setting the agenda to bust unions all over the country.
I talk to Kasich every day. John's got to stand firm in Ohio. I think we can do the same thing with Rick Scott in Florida. I think Schneider, if he got a little more support, probably could do that in Michigan. I mean, you start going down the list. A lot of us, there's a lot of us new governors who got elected to do something big.
You're the first domino.
Yep. This is our moment.
You get what he's saying there? Mr. Koch, thank you for your $43,000 contribution to my campaign. Thank you for all the work you're doing on my behalf right now. Here's what I'm going to do for you in return. I'm going to start that domino effect. This is our moment, and then we're going to go to Ohio, kind of like Howard did. We're going to go to Ohio. We're going to go to Michigan. We're going to go to Florida. Yeah, and grab baseball bats all over the place. Look, this is exactly what we told you last night. We told you they were coming to bust the unions all over the country. This doesn't have anything to do with Wisconsin's deficit. And when the billionaire calls, he says, oh, yeah, you're right, Mr. Koch. Absolutely, Mr. Koch. Let's do it all over the country. Well, look, it might not be the domino effect that Walker was dreaming about, because it turns out today, thousands of protesters in Indiana won. The Republican state Senate leader dropped their attempt to eliminate collective bargaining rights. Why? Because people stood up. And then all of a sudden they got a little scared. They're like, oh my God, it's protesters. They're actually doing democracy. Also today, Iowa's Republican Governor Terry Branstad nixed his state's own union-busting bill. So 2 important victories there. But now back to the call. Walker also weighed in on his quid pro quo. Now that he's delivered for Koch Industries, what can the Koch lobbying machine do for Wisconsin Republicans?
One thing for your question is the more groups that are encouraging people not just to show up, but to call lawmakers and tell them to hang firm with the governor, the better. Because the more they get that reassurance, the easier it is for them to vote yes.
Right.
The other thing is more long-term, and that is after this, in the coming days and weeks and months ahead, particularly in some of these more swing areas, a lot of these guys are going to need, they don't necessarily need ads for them, but they're going to need a message out reinforcing why this was a good thing to do for the economy and a good thing to do for the state. So to the extent that that message is out over and over again, that's obviously a good thing.
All right, you get what's happening there? All right, we need reassurance for the Republicans, okay? How are you going to get that reassurance? You're going to get ads. You're going to have to give us a little bit back for what we did for you. And finally, the fake Koch dangled a reward in front of Walker for all of his hard work going after working Americans.
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott. Once you crush these bastards, I'll fly you out to Cali and really show you a good time.
All right, that would be outstanding.
That would be outstanding. Parties in Cali. They're going Tupac style. They're like, yeah, after we're done with the bets, we'll go to California, grab at least a couple of brews. Now, you see how all this works? Walker gets campaign cash and help with ads from the Koch brothers. Then he takes out his bat and goes to work on the unions and gets rewarded with parties in California, more ads, more reassurance. And the cycle goes round and round, and you get screwed, and the middle class gets screwed, and the Koch brothers get richer. And if you didn't know, now thanks to that tape, you know. And joining me now is Wisconsin Democratic State Senator Chris Larson, one of the 14 Democrats that the Governor Walker thinks he can intimidate. Well, you heard the tape, and on the tape he says, oh, these guys are weak. They'll bend. I won't ever compromise, and I'll trick them into coming into the state. How do you respond to that?
Right, Cenk, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, we're not falling for it. I've actually worked with Walker for the 3 years before he was governor, when we were both at Milwaukee County, and this is the kind of stuff that he does. He appreciates this right-wing race to the bottom, and I mean, he's really living in this moment where he's trying to lead the country and trying to lead these other Republican governors. And no, we listened to it all today. I woke up early. I got this in my email and forwarded it on to the other senators, and everybody listened to it, and their jaws just dropped on the floor because, we thought, okay, maybe there's some piece in them that wants to compromise and find a solution for Wisconsin on this one. And I don't think he even mentioned what was going on in Wisconsin or the deficit at all in this. It was all about busting the union, so it really gave away his cards. And I mean, if you listen to the whole audio, it really speaks for itself. It tells you exactly what he's trying to do.
All right, so let's talk about how this plays out then, because, look, his plan was to trick you guys to coming into the state, pretend to negotiate, then not negotiate, and then say, ha-ha, I got quorum. So now that you know he's lying to you, how do you respond to that? Does that mean you're going to stay out longer?
Right. Well, I think if anything, I mean, the Democrats, we weren't going to be coming back until this backwards budget bill was pulled off the table. But I think, he mentions in that call, and you might play this clip later, where he's talking about the Senate Republicans who are getting shaky because we've had tens of thousands of people coming out and marching on the Capitol. We've had 6 days straight of public hearing where people are talking about the effects this has on them. And so they're the ones who are really getting shaky, and he's had to call them each night to make sure that they're not falling away. Well, I don't think they're going to be taking his call tonight. I think that they're going to be coming back to the middle and saying, look, this guy doesn't even care about what's going on in Wisconsin. He's trying to impress some billionaires. He's trying to impress some other people in other parts of the country, and we need to worry about our friends and neighbors back home that are going to be devastated by this. So I think those are the ones who may end up being shaky, but no, we're pretty rock solid against this.
All right, now to that point, I actually want to play you a clip where he talks about Ronald Reagan, because it goes to a state of mind. Let's play that for you.
I stood up and I pulled out a picture of Ronald Reagan, and I said, this may seem a little melodramatic, but 30 years ago, Ronald Reagan, whose 100th birthday we just celebrated the day before, had one of the most defining moments of his political career, not just his presidency, when he fired the air traffic controllers. And I said, to me, that moment was more important than just for labor relations or even the federal budget. That was the first crack in the Berlin Wall in the fall of communism. I said, this is our moment. This is our time to change the course of history.
This guy thinks he's changing the course of history. He thinks he's the Gipper, right? So is he playing to a national audience here? Does he not care what's going on in Wisconsin because he wants to project this image of being the next Ronald Reagan to conservatives across the country and to the Koch brothers?
Right. I mean, he's got to be listening to them because he's not listening to the folks back in Wisconsin. It seems we've kind of seen this before where Republicans try and emulate Ronald Reagan and do impersonations of Ronald Reagan. And, this just kind of puts that right up front that that's all he's trying to do is trying to relive 8 years of Ronald Reagan or 4 years of Ronald Reagan. And, this is not what people are talking about back home. This is something where we're trying to solve some budget problems. We're trying to move forward, and he's trying to play out this Republican fantasy where he can outright wing the right wing, where he's trying to outdo Christie over in New Jersey and Kasich in Ohio, and I think he mentions in this call too where he's trying to talk about how a Republican governor doesn't want him there because of what he's doing here, and people would elect him governor there. So it's really sad that this is where it's going. I mean, there's serious problems back home. I'm getting calls from friends who are concerned about their jobs, people who are teachers, and he's off doing this. Instead of taking calls from make-believe billionaires, he should be listening to the folks back home.
All right, State Senator Chris Larson, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Stay strong. Stay strong.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, let me turn to Lee Fong from thinkprogress.org, who's been investigating the Koch brothers. He's been tracking this all along. Lee, first, this isn't isolated. Tell me a little bit about what the Koch brothers did to set up shop in Madison, Wisconsin after Walker's victory.
Well, in addition to hosting tea parties and bringing folks out to support the governor, they actually opened a new government affairs shop, which is, basically lobbyist talk to a lobbying office. They hired 7 new lobbyists. They're really expanding their operation to take advantage of a very friendly government there.
Yes, and what are they trying to get, you think? I mean, obviously, they've already got the thing where they want to bust the unions and they want tax cuts, et cetera. But talk to me about this possibility of no-bid contracts.
Well, there's a line item in this budget. In addition to this collective bargaining issue, there's a line item that allows no-bid contracts so Governor Walker can sell off the state's power plants. Now, Koch Industries has a lot of oil and coal interests already in the state. So that's something that would be very good for their business. But here's the dirty secret about Koch Industries. Even though David and Charles Koch like to talk about being, free market libertarians, the dirty secret is their entire business is based on government contracts. They basically started the company 50 years ago, their father, by building refineries for Stalin in the Soviet Union. In the Bush years, they got a no-bid contract to expand the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And in the past few years, they've been using eminent domain to seize up land to build new pipelines.
Why do you think they buy the politicians? Because they want to milk the government. It's the most ironic thing I've ever seen. Finally, real quick here, is this the quid pro quo you've been talking about and a lot of people have been talking about all along? Is this how the game is played? Have we seen that through this phone call?
Well, absolutely. I mean, this call really showed the substance of what Governor Walker was thinking. He was talking to David Koch, or what he thought was David Koch, like it was his supervisor. I mean, he was just giddy to spill his guts and to brag about how this is not about the budget, but about busting unions. 2 months ago, David Koch actually the real David Koch met with Speaker Boehner in the Speaker's office on the first day of Congress and threw a big party for all the new Republicans he helped elect. So, maybe Scott Walker thought this was the same type of relationship that Boehner has with Koch.
All right, Lee Fong, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for staying on top of the story. Very important. Turns out to be incredibly accurate, too. Thank you. Now, Republicans are demanding pay cuts for teachers. So why was it okay for bankers bailed out with public money to get raises? That hypocrisy is revealed right ahead. We also reveal the extreme agenda of the Republican governors throughout the country. We'll show you the amazing numbers behind their plan to transfer money from the middle class and poor to the very rich.